Well, imagine logging out of your bank account and discovering a fraudulent charge in the amount of $4,999. That's exactly what happened to this viewer. And even though the charge was still pending, she says she couldn't get her credit union to do anything about it.
If you don't want to lose money with Navy Federal moving forward or any other credit union in the future, then I need you to listen up. It seems there have been more cases popping up and piling up on top of Navy Federal lately, and I'm gonna be honest with you, it's a little disturbing. First, we had an alleged discrimination against a specific race, allegedly, and now we have a new case where fraudulent charges are being added to customers, aka Navy Federal customers, and there's no protection for said customer. So I just wanted to bring this to light. So what I'm going to do in today's lesson, we're going to break down this Navy Federal scandal that actually happened and how you can actually protect yourself and your loved ones if they are with Navy Federal, so something like this would never ever happen. So go ahead, go get your pen and paper. I promise you, you might want to stay to the end so you don't miss any information, because this was actually kind of crazy. And without further ado, let's dive in. And before we get started, ladies and gents, I just want to ask if you don't mind hitting that like button for me, as it helps my channel out a ton. I truly appreciate all your support. I'm trying to help every single Navy Federal member out there put on notice about this issue so this never happens to not only you, but them as well. But enough of me rambling, let's actually get into this Navy Federal scandal. So of course, as you saw, this story started out with a lady out in Arizona, and it seems that she had some unauthorized transactions to her statements, as you saw.
And noticed a strange transaction for just under $5,000 that she did not recognize, and the transaction was kind of fresh.
It was pending, it was in progress, and so it was a huge amount, and I had no idea what it was from. I didn't authorize it or anything, so I immediately got in the car and I drove to Navy Federal Credit Union branch in Goodyear.
Cindy told credit union reps about the fraudulent $5,000 transaction, but she says because the transaction was still pending, employees told her there wasn't anything they could do unless the transaction actually went through.
And it was almost a $5,000 pending charge. I don't know about y'all, but if I see anything 499, that's 5,000 to me. So I'm not gonna say 49. It was a $5,000 pending charge. Anyway, just like anyone, if you see a huge charge that is on your statement and you didn't make it, just like me, just like you and anybody else, I would immediately freak out. My heart is definitely skipping a beat. I don't care how much money you have. If you see a balance that is not yours, and we talking a very hefty amount, again, your heart is gonna skip a beat. And now, of course, the first thing that she did as a customer, and as anybody would do, you would get a hold of Navy Federal and tell them, hey, yo, this charge was not mine. I don't know where it came from, but this needs to come off expeditiously. Now, of course, if you've been in a situation or you haven't been in a situation similar to this, when you see something pop up on your actual statement list as far as a transaction, no matter how much it is, and it wasn't yours, of course, you're going to notify the bank. And majority of the time when it comes to the process, you tell them, oh, again, it's not mine, things of that nature. 9 times out of 10, if the transaction is very, very fresh, they are going to tell you something along the lines, and I'm pretty sure we all have heard it. Oh, you have to wait until the transaction is done pending, and when it finally hits your account, then we can now take action. I've heard it countless times, and if you ever been in that situation, I'm pretty sure you've heard it too. There are some banks that take action right then and there, but 9 times out of 10, they're gonna wait until the transaction actually finished pending and it actually hits your account. Now, a long time ago, when I used to go through the protocol of that, and I used to hear, oh, it has to finish pending, things of that nature, I used to be okay with this. I'm like, all right, fine. Even if I did not have the actual funds to cover whatever fraudulent charge it was. Because in my head, I used to think, oh, it's fine. The bank has the best interest at heart for me. It doesn't matter. So what if my account goes into the negative? They got me. They know I'm good for it. No, they don't have the best interest for you. I'm telling you that right now. People, you have to understand that in serious situations like this with lenders and banks, the first thing that they're going to do is protect themselves. CYA. Because to be fair, of course, they do not know if this is a scam. So of course they have to be careful with that. To be fair, I'll give them that. Thus why they tell you we have to wait until the transactions finish pending and it actually posts to your account. But it's still even more disheartening due to when situations like this actually happen with a very substantial amount of money. this can really put the customer in a serious bind, especially in times like this. Because a $5,000 charge can make or break anybody. A $200 charge can make or break anybody. $20, you never know. This person might not be able to buy food, gas, rent, and just racking up late payments and collections and things of that nature because the bank is just doing what they do. Trust me, they don't always have to wait until the charge actually finished pending for them to actually do something about it. And now, according to the Electronic Transfer Act, you as a consumer are supposed to be protected from these type of issues. This is supposed to be a thing, right? Well, Navy Federal actually denied her dispute, which was wild. And don't get me wrong, I've been in my fair share of investigations and they did not overturn it. I know some people that I know, anytime they do an investigate, it always works out in their favor. Well, when it comes to me on the debit side, I think I might be 1 for 5 or something like that. Any other time, and those transactions were never even mine. They always said, oh, this is yours, etc., etc. You benefit from it. A bunch of crazy stuff. But as you can see, this is where the bank is trying to protect themselves. But always remember, again, as a consumer, you have a right to request documentation if they came to this decision. Do not forget this, ladies and gents, because when they give you that letter in the mail, it says that you have the right to request documentation for this. A lot of banks and lenders don't want you to actually figure this out, even though it's right there, because they think that you don't want to read everything else because you're already devastated about what you already see at the top, which is why they put it at the bottom. But again, utilize this. Ask them for all the documentation of how they actually came to this decision. What did you do? What were the steps that you took? I want to see how you got to this, because it's crazy how they assume that someone benefited, aka you, from a transaction and they don't even know. That's just like when you get it's verified or a stall letter from the credit bureaus and they're saying, hey, you don't sound like who you say you are. Really? You don't even know how I sound. People, this is why I always tell you, and I will continuously tell you on this channel, please stop using your debit card. Please. Your debit card will always put you in a deeper hole with fraud. Why? Because again, your debit card is connected to your real money, something that is very, very tangible. When you take $2 out of your bank account, $2 actually leaves your account. That is way different than your actual credit card, all right? The banks do not want to replace actual funds, okay? They do not want to do this. Now, disclaimer, I'm not saying this cannot happen to you as far as a credit card and everything is just going to be super peachy when something like this happens. You can also go through an investigation and they say, oh, this actually belongs to you, etc., etc. Because you're speaking to a person that had to deal with both issues on both sides, whether it was my debit card a long time ago or credit card fraudulent transactions. So I've been in both worlds, so I can actually speak on it. But I guarantee you, they gave me the same outcome again as this lady on the debit side, like I spoke in the beginning. But on the credit side, it was a totally different story. You have to understand that when it comes to specific transactions on the credit side, it's easier for them to wipe a transaction than on the debit side. Debit is actually connected to your real money. Credit is actually connected to a credit limit that they created themselves, aka, in so many words, not real money. It's easier for them to wipe that off than a debit card transaction, all right? Please understand that. Because with a $5,000 charge on the credit side, that is, again, a little easier to dispute and wipe away than on the debit side. Because again, the banks do not want to replace your real money. They can, but they don't want to. They will string out this investigation as long as they can, okay? Because just following up again on the credit card side, if this transaction happened, then the worst case is your due date is coming up. Let's say your due date is the 21st or something of that nature, right? And let's say the fraudulent transaction happened on the 18th and they state, oh, you can make the payment on the actual fraudulent charge and we'll reimburse you while we're investigating the situation if it gets overturned. The worst thing that will happen on the credit side is, let's say you don't make the payment, you let them do the investigation, it hits your credit, now your utilization is high for 1 month. For 1 month, they do the investigation, they overturn it, they don't have that $5,000 charge, and now whatever points that you lost on the credit side, you're going to get right back, if not 80 to 90% of what you lost the following month, because that is going to be paid off. Do you see what I'm saying? You see where I'm going with this? With debit, You lost the money, you lost the money. On the credit side, you lost a few points, but you're gonna gain it right back the following month. I'd rather take side B. Because if you do everything right as far as making sure everything is still paid off throughout the month, and the only thing that's bothering your credit is that fake $5,000 charge, it's gonna be wiped away the following month. And then you're gonna be fine, back to square one. And one thing again, I always want you to keep in mind that please, when you're dealing with these situations, whether it comes with a lender or a bank, please, always keep a paper trail. They want you to call so they can tell you that crappy, oh, there's nothing we can do, I'm sorry. You could call, but I want you to make sure that you send an actual letter to that place to ask for documentation. And then you can call and ask for proof of documentation for the investigation as well. Because now you're holding a paper trail where they're not doing anything, and you can put that to the CFPB and you can light a fire up under them and tell them, yo, if you don't help me get my money back, I'm gonna go public with this, just like this lady did, if you do not return my money. Because as you've seen on the actual screen, when that lady went public, Navy Federal found that money and they gave it back to her. But I'm not saying it's foolproof, but if it worked for her, yo, it could work for you. Either way, just don't accept the mediocrity of, yeah, there's nothing we can do crap. That's all I want you to do. Please understand that and please move forward. Always be proactive. Don't be reactive. Because remember, you have more power than what you think when it comes to these lenders. Just because they're holding your money does not mean that you don't have anything. You have more leverage over them than what you think. But I'm curious to know what you guys think. Do you guys think Navy Federal is right in this situation? Do you think it's crazy for me to tell you to stop using your debit card and dust off that credit card because you think credit cards are bad when it's really you and things of that nature? Let me know in the comment section below. I want to thank you guys for stopping by. Now make sure that you pay attention to all of your money and make sure you know where it's going, all right? And until next time, ladies and gents.